Hi, my name is Nolan Victor Franson, and this is for Construction 298 at BYU, Idaho. The class is labeled at Beginning Internship. This is a summary of my internship with Hughes General Contractors. The first thing that I learned while working at Hughes General Contractors was how hard it was to actually find an internship. It wasn't easy. I was looking for an internship pretty much from the beginning of, I don't know, probably from the beginning of April and all the way till August, pretty much. And it took me a long time to find my internship with Hughes General Contractors. I spent hours on Indeed, and I spent time with the missionaries at BYU Idaho that help you find internships, and they were all very helpful. I didn't have someone that did not help me. I had lots of resources, but I think a lot of times we take for granted how easy we think something could be, and honestly, it wasn't all that easy. I was getting married at the time, so I was looking for a job that would pay me well so that me and my wife could both do internships at the same time. And I was looking all over the place, and I had a few offers toward the end of my last semester in the spring, but they weren't very well paid, and like I was kind of upset about that until one day I came across Hughes General Contractors needed a laborer. And they're like, hey, need some skills. And I had some skills at the time, just doing some random construction work. And I applied for it, and they gave me a call. And I was like, oh, cool. And I told them, hey, I'm not really looking to be a laborer, but I need an internship filled. And they're like, oh, that's great. We have tons of interns, and we want to have interns. Why don't you give us a call tomorrow, and we'll talk about it. And next day, I talked to them. They made me a very generous offer of $17 an hour. That is to the skill level that you have. Some people don't get that, but I was offered $17 an hour, and I was ecstatic. I was so happy to get an internship. So a little bit about the company that I was going to work for. Hughes General Contractors has been around for about 60 years now. Their headquarters is in North Salt Lake, and they have a headquarters down in St. George, Utah. They are pretty much only in Utah. They have done some jobs outside the state, but for the most part, they primarily stay inside of Utah. They specialize in concrete tilt-ups, and also they specialize in basically concrete. They're a very big company, very, very successful company. I know sometimes we get in the way. We hear about a lot of other big companies, but Hughes General Contractors, I promise you, is an awesome company to work for. The first day I showed up on the job site, I was working on a middle school down in Bluffdale, Utah, and it was pretty cool because we had a middle school on this side, and we had an elementary school on this side. So they were both kitty corner to each other, and it was pretty cool because I got to see them both being built at the same time. When I arrived on the job site, they had pretty much almost just started. They had the walls around the job site all set up for the most part. There were a few places where they weren't set up just quite, but for the most part, most of the job site was set and ready to go. The footings were poured. So besides not seeing the footings, I have seen 90% of all the concrete that has been poured on the job site, and I've actually been there at every single pour. So many days I would have to wake up and get up at 5 a.m. No, I would have to be there at 5 a.m. And sometimes I'd even have to be there at 4 a.m. I think the earliest I had to be there at one point was 3 a.m. That was for a huge pour. It was for like 370 cubic yards of concrete. It was such a big pour. And anyway, I ended up getting this great job, and I was really, really fortunate in getting two awesome foremen. The superintendent, which was Bill Blackwell, and my foreman, which was Greg Earhart. Both of them had been in construction for a while. Greg, my foreman that I worked with more on a daily basis, was a master carpenter and was able to teach me a lot about some basic carpentry, like how to use a skill saw, how to use a hammer, how to use your square properly. He taught me how to make stakes and forms and doorways and all sorts of different things that I know that I can properly go to another job and use. I'm very confident in knowing how to do all of that. Some things, though, that I worked while I was working there wasn't that new for me. For example, sometimes we'd have to dig or use a jackhammer or even use some basic equipment, and I would be able to know how to use that. The thing that One of the things that I think was very beneficial to me while working for Hughes General Contractors is they allowed me to operate machinery in which I could develop and learn as a skill. So, for example, I was able to learn how to use a large forklift, and I was also able to enhance my skill on a mini excavator and also a skid steer, also known as a bobcat. Both of those things are things that I've known how to do, but except for the forklift. The forklift was very new to me. It was kind of scary to use the first few times because I had no idea what I was doing, but I was excited to use it, and they just let me get in and figure it out. And they're like, hey, take your time. We want you not to drop the things that we're going to give you. So we want you to learn, because at that point they wanted to kind of take the reins. It takes time to unload trucks and also move things around the job site. So they're trying to delegate it. And eventually in my internship, I ended up becoming a head intern, which basically allowed me to coordinate where the interns go, where we need them. A lot of times the foreman and the superintendent would both tell me to do stuff, and then I would have to delegate, like, hey, who does this, who does that, like, where do we need these guys? And it was awesome for me because I got to do a little bit of leadership. That's not a big brag. It kind of altered. Everyone got a turn to be able to be this head intern, and it was really cool to be able to have a little bit of time toward the end. I've only had it for the last month or month and a half or something like that. But it was really cool to be able to kind of lead a crew a little bit. And toward the end, I knew quite a bit. I knew exactly what I was doing, or for the most part. I needed some help on a lot of things, but for the most part, I knew what I was doing. They could tell me what to do, and I could go do it. The thing that I did the most of was installing the expansion joint, which is just a little slit of material that goes in between the slab that you pour and the concrete wall. And it just has a little white strip on the top of it, and it was important for the pour. And I got to do that a lot. I don't know. I probably laid 1,000 feet of it. I laid so much of it. The first day I showed up, I laid expansion joint, and all the way to like pretty much last month, I was still laying expansion joint. And that was, yeah, that's probably the job I hate the most, was laying expansion joint. But it taught me how to use a hammer drill, and it taught me how to use a hammer better, and it taught me how to work a little harder. It was very fast. Once you get in a rhythm of something, it's very easy to do that. The most valuable lesson that I learned is how to be a carpenter and how to make proper cuts on pieces of 2x4 and pieces of wood. When me and my foreman Greg and one other intern would help Greg build these door frames, the door frames have to be exactly. You cannot have a door frame that's too wide or too little. They have to be exactly. So when Greg tells us, hey, you have to cut this next piece at 5'6", we have to cut it exactly to 5'6", or the door doesn't work and it won't fit inside where the masons have put block. So that is probably one of the most valuable experiences that I have had while working with Hughes General Contractors. Some things need to be precise and they have to be perfect, but some things don't have to be that way. For example, when I was building stakes to build a form for concrete, they said just cut them, make them look good, like just do a good job and just send them to us. So basically they're like, so in those cases, I didn't really need to have it perfectly, but I did my best. And honestly, learning how to be a good carpenter was very, very, very valuable to me. Those are just some of the things that I learned how to do, but my overall experience with Hughes General Contractors was amazing. They were really good to me. They let me work a lot of hours. My foremen were over the top. They were just so good, and they allowed me to learn and to grow. And where other internships, I don't know how often you get to learn that, but they spent the time to teach me and to just show me how things are done, easier ways to do things. There was a lot of other things that I learned. I learned how to use many tools and many different things, but I wouldn't have learned that if I didn't have good foremen to begin with. Hughes General Contractors on both the job sites, right across from the other. I've worked with both job sites. The other guy on the other job site is named Craig. He's the super over there. He taught me how to run the forklift. Like, Hughes General Contractors is full of people that want you to succeed. This is a good thing because in an internship, you need to learn as much as you can. That is what I have learned. That's what I've learned. It's great. Hughes General Contractors is great. They're a great company. I highly recommend working for them if you have the skills and you want to learn. And that as well, they want to offer you a job. They want me to come back already, and I have only been working for them for 4 months. They said, hey, when you're done with your internship, we want you to come do another internship later. And unfortunately, I need to do another one someplace else, but they are really good to you. They want you back. They want you to come work for them. They're a great company. They're an amazing company. They take care of you. And all in all, I'd be happy to work for this company. Thank you so much.